Zealand. Yes. Do that.
Okay, we're on.
Hey.
Hello.
That was fast. I've never done this before, so Robin's going to have to tell me what to expect because this is all new for me.
Here, if you're shaking the table, it's going to shake the
I'm sorry.
video.
All right. See, I
You can't.
already shook the video already.
Let me move this back a little.
Pardon me.
Hopefully. We just had a phone call coming in from New Zealand.
Oh, no.
So, hi guys. We're going to have to, let's see if I can bring you up on my computer as well so we can see your comments and questions. And just 1 second. Let's see if it's showing where I can see it here. I think it will be. Some of you who are better at this than me. Okay, we'll get Peter in a minute. Let's see. Here we are. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. Oh, go on Facebook under my name and you'll see it in our life. I'm letting someone know how to get in that wants to get in. All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So this is Dave's first time to come on Facebook Live with me.
I'm here.
And let's see, we're getting some comments. Hey, I found the Facebook page. Your lesson was great. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Yeah, we have some people signing on to come in and talk to us. I don't know, they don't seem to be showing here. Plus, we look a little fuzzy. Yeah, so can you read those all the way from here, honey?
I cannot. Here, that's what it's saying.
Oh, Dave,
no.
your nose in the screen.
Oh.
Here, wait a minute, I'll do it.
Okay, you do it.
Guys, is there a way I can see this on Facebook on my computer that I can see what you guys are saying? Let's see. Oh, I see. I have to sign into it on my computer, I think is what has to happen, right?
All right. Technical difficulties. Hang in there.
Hang in there. We're trying to figure it out so that we can...
We are.
Oh, no. I don't need a watch party. Is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to watch it. Okay. I don't know why we're having a hard time seeing your comments. If anybody has a solution for that on how to see the comments as they're coming up. But thank you for joining us. We just I thought it'd be cool for Dave and I to come on, and we just did Pure and Pandemic. And in case you didn't, do you want to give a summary, honey, of some of the highlights of what we were talking about in the seminar? We actually had 1,167 people, it said, who came, and maybe another 500 who will get the video. So that was exciting.
It was, and it was something God put on my heart that, as I saw and expected, I mean, I had this sense that given what we know about sexual addiction, what we know about self-comfort and impurity, I didn't really need for anybody to tell me that this was going to be an issue. I mean, I pretty well knew, based on 19 years of looking at this, that there was going to be a big opportunity for Satan to move in and try to get some more footholds, strongholds in people's hearts. And so when we announced it, we had the ability to have 500 people in our room. We thought that probably would be enough, but we soon found out that this really struck a chord with people. There was a big interest in this, and now I think ultimately around 1,500 have registered. And so just our ministry, Purity Restored, is basically we just want to use our pain, our story, to help others. I can't go back and undo the things I did and change all the things, bad decisions I made, and the things that I got into with my sexual addiction, as much as I'd like to. So the only way I really feel like God can be glorified through this is for us to keep telling our story, and hopefully people, especially people younger than us, we're both in our, have both turned 60, And we hope that people can learn in their 20s, maybe even in their teens, the things we didn't learn till we were in our 40s. Because we were fortunate enough that we survived spiritually, and our marriage survived. But we've seen so many who haven't survived spiritually, and marriages haven't survived. It breaks our heart, and we just want to keep telling our story, even though it's painful every time we tell it, and can easily bring up points of shame in me. If this story can inspire others to get help and learn lessons earlier in life, it is worth it. It's worth sharing it. It's worth putting it out there. And so that's what we thought we would do, and the response was overwhelming.
Yeah. I think, a time of isolation is very difficult on us, spiritually, emotionally, physically even, and it can trigger up past pain. It can trigger memories. If you have trauma in your background, it can trigger up the trauma. And I know one thing that was very moving we were talking about today is picturing Jesus there with you in the fire, that this is an opportunity. See, I don't think God looks at coronavirus. First, I don't think he made it to hurt us or to punish us or any of that. I just don't see God that way. But I think that he wants to use it in our lives. And one way God can use it, if we'll allow him, is to take him to the wounds on the inside, to the broken places, and be able to excavate them, be able to dig up the roots, and let him be present in pain maybe that we weren't able to have him present in at the time, like, being sexually abused as a kid. I didn't know how to bring Jesus into that. And I didn't even have an awareness of Jesus at that age, but now I do. So now the beautiful thing is that Jesus can go back with me to that point, and he can bring me back into that situation with safety and wrap his grace and protection around me. And then I'm not going to be so tempted to medicate out, to medicate out all the hurt that's still inside of me. And, I've found sometimes there are things that we think are long healed, but then something random happens and bam, you're back there again. And I gotta think that God created us that way for a purpose, that that he takes us, he allows us to be able to connect the dots, because he wants to meet us in those places and teach us about the fullness of his love and recreate us through those places. But they're also the places that we're able to extend healing to others. That this world right now is suffering, and a lot of people are suffering. People who are marginalized in marginalized populations are suffering. There's a lot of suffering out there, and me being in touch in my pain and integrating it into my story gives me relatability and wisdom to share with other people. Tam says that is at the last conference in November for the first time, and it changed so much for myself and our husband, our relationship with God, each other, and how we help others. Love hearing from you both again. Thank you, Tam. So the comments are up if you have a question or you'd like to make some comments. But anyways, it's an encouraging way to see the pandemic, to know that God is working in it, and he wants to use it to refine us, to help us to even grow in our purity. But we need to be aware that there are a lot of temptations with it as well.
Right. Well, this is truly a pandemic, the impurity issue, because pandemic means that it goes to the whole world. Is like all. Endemic is a demographic, it's all peoples. And so we've certainly over the last 3 years traveled to many places in the world, seeing that these kind of issues are universal. This pandemic of impurity has been going on for a while, and Satan, when he has something that's working, he'll just keep going after it. And so the interesting thing, though, that the Bible doesn't say all things are good. It just says God can work even the bad things for our good. In our situation, this is how we make a living. We travel, we speak, and with all the rules and restrictions, we can't do that. but our heart is to help as many people as possible. And now, as we're learning, we're got a long way to go, as we're learning to use virtual tools, just like today, we could be in, I don't know, 20, 30 countries at once. And so, in some ways, we feel like this is going to allow us to spread this good news even more effectively to more people without killing Robin on the road with all the things that have happened to her while traveling. And so,
although we would like to go to New Zealand.
Yeah. So,
no, there's many places we'd like to go.
Yeah. So we are experiencing in ways just God's fulfillment of the promise that even those things that are bad and have caused a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, He can even use those things for our good. And we're seeing that in our ministry and in our lives, that God is above all of this and He can turn it to our good. But that doesn't take away some of the anxiety, some of the uncertainty, some of the pain that's there.
Yeah, we just had a question come through, just wanting practicals on what do you do when the trauma comes up. And so it's important to know that there are ways to know when trauma is coming up for you. And one is you'll start to shift into the fight or flight part of the brain. So you might find yourself getting really testy or snapping at your husband, which I've done sometimes. This week, I think, maybe a couple times I've snapped at Dave. But snapping at someone, doing something out of character, maybe you feel your heart seems to be racing a lot, you can't sleep, there's something tugging at your memories. So I was listening to a great, really respected psychologist this week talking about it. And he was just talking about the importance of a gentle curiosity in those moments. So in other words, instead of panicking, when you think, oh man, something's coming up, I'm scared, it's already too much, I already don't feel safe, I don't want to deal with this right now, whatever it is kind of coming up for us, to catch ourselves and say, I'm safe, God, be here with me, body, and talk to our body. Okay, body, what you're going through is normal, and it's telling you that there's something there to heal. So what all that does is it kind of shifts you back into the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which isn't such a raw emotional state. It helps you settle a little bit. And then my thing is, like when I found out that my friend died and his daughter called me at 6:30 in the morning, I found out he died. Just shock. Like, I couldn't process it. She sent me a text and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is a nightmare. This can't be true. I felt all this denial flooding through my veins. And I'm like, have I ever felt this way before? And why do I feel like, like my whole body is shut down? Why am I struggling so hard? And I knew there was more there. And then I kept asking myself, I allowed myself to explore, like, okay, I think this is shock. I think I'm feeling shock. And then, have I ever felt this way before? And suddenly it occurred to me, of course, I don't know how many years it's been, 20 years ago, 30 years ago that my sister died.
29 years ago.
29 years ago, my sister died in an automobile accident, but it just brought flooding back that phone call. Like, okay, the trauma, it just came bubbling up out of my soul, like the trauma of that moment. And so I'm like, okay, there's trauma here. This is, in fact, all week, I felt like I was getting more and more snippets of it. And so I journaled about it. I allowed it to come. I wrote about it. I talked to Dave about it. I talked to some friends about it. And so as I did that, I felt like once the trauma is expressed, you've taken a huge, big step toward healing it. Because you've told your body, okay, it's okay. You can calm down. You don't need to go into fight or flight. It's okay. There's going to be a way. It's okay to face this now. We're not going to run from it. And he was just the psychologist that's talking about how powerful that is in your body. And then imagine sharing with somebody and explaining with them what happened to your body when that trauma came up. And then them being able to apply comfort or to say, I'm going to pray for you, or wow, that's a big trauma. Just acknowledging. That's the way we should respond if somebody brings us our trauma. Can respond that's maybe healthier.
So 2 words I hear you say is curiosity.
Yes, curiosity.
And gentleness.
And gentleness.
Right.
Curiosity and gentleness.
I have these dreams over and over again where I'm supposed to be somewhere and I can't find the way, or I'm supposed to do a lesson and I wasn't prepared, or there's some way in my dreams I'm always falling short. I'm lost. I can't find the classroom. I haven't gone to class. I'm supposed to be, taking a test in a class. I haven't studied for it. I'm supposed to be turning in reports to my employer and I haven't done them. It seems like there's always something where I'm falling short over and over again in my dreams. And I don't understand exactly. I don't know. I'm curious, and I'm asking God right now, what is it that's driving my subconscious to keep telling me, reliving over and over again, these feelings of helplessness, these feelings of insufficiency, and there's probably some trauma work yet to be done there. I don't know, but I'm just being curious right now and trying to figure out, because I don't really like the dreams. They're not the kind of dreams I want to have. But at some point, over and over again, I can't find what I need to find. I can't. I'm behind. I'm unprepared, and I feel this sense of dread.
Can you think of a time you felt that way before?
Yeah.
We're just doing this live, right? We'll just do it just like how we would do it together.
Certainly in my sales career, certainly the performance was expected a lot. And certainly even in academic career, it seemed like I'm kind of a last minute person. So sometimes that makes things stressful. Maybe I don't know what that's doing, because I've really had success in many of these areas, sales, academics, whatever. So ultimately, these are areas I did well in, but something inside me keeps telling me that I'm a failure.
Can I be the voice of grace for you?
Yes, please.
So this is what we teach and what we have learned that has really helped us, and we've been able to share it with churches. And that is that when someone's feeling the way Dave's feeling, we do this often with each other, is for the other person to try to personify grace. So I'm no longer Robin, I'm going to become Grace. And anything I say to him is Grace speaking, not Robin. So obviously there's no fixing, no discipling, no bringing up more things he could feel bad about. There's none of that. I'm just purely going to try to shift into being the voice of grace. So Dave.
Hi, Grace. Nice.
Hi.
Glad you came by.
I'm Grace.
Yeah, I know who you are. And
yes.
I welcome your visit.
I sit really close to the heart of God. And I think it gives me special insight into how he feels about you.
Oh.
And I think one reason you feel all that so strongly is because you have this beautiful drive that's come from the Father to help others, to love others, to lay yourself down. And so fear can come from that, but what I see coming from that is this, this seminar we did today. Without that sense of you conquering that part of yourself, and about that sense of you extending to the very last minute for this seminar, this wouldn't have happened. And so what I see is a man that I'm using to bring grace to other people. And so I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace. I'll try to ask God to let me have those dreams and swap out the ones I'm having. And dreams are so funny. They're so they're so bizarre sometimes, and strange people show up.
Yeah.
I never told you that Richard Nixon showed up in my dream the other night.
Okay.
I don't know.
So how did that make you feel, hon?
I felt very encouraged. My soul felt watered and strengthened, and felt like even if the dreams continue, oh well, that life will go on, and as long as I know that the real things that God cares about, I'm in God's will, then so be it.
Yeah.
And I wish they weren't, but who knows? That's just my thorn in the flesh. But somehow I feel like that I need to be curious and be open to trauma work, where in the past I probably was very not open to it.
Yeah.
I probably should open my heart and be willing to explore it.
Yeah. Wow. Look at you. I love my husband, and I love this voice of grace. It's good. Do you want to do one for me?
Sure.
Well, yesterday, I don't know, I was fighting myself all day. Like, I think I told you at one point, I guess you're Grace, huh?
I'm Grayson.
You're Grayson, okay,
Grayson.
You're Grayson. You're Grayson. At one point I told my husband, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do any of it. I'm done doing it. Was that yesterday or the day before?
It was yesterday.
Okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I said, I think I'll just die. And then my husband said, oh. And then I said, nah, that's too much trouble. But and then afterwards I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do anything. And so I just laid there and I read for a while and I just looked outside and kind of let it pass. But I think I had this little accusation in my mind that if other people knew this about me, they would be surprised or maybe a little horrified or be like, or what does she have to share or something like that. It went through my mind anyways. It went through my mind.
Well, thanks for sharing, Robin. I just happened to be in the neighborhood when that did happen, and I happened to observe it. I know that you were feeling some very strong feelings. You have, God has given you a very sensitive heart and a very big heart, and you absorb a lot of pain. You absorb a lot of things. People come to you and place heavy things on you. Death of family members, losses, very large losses that they come to you and draw from your pool of love and mercy to meet their needs. So I know that takes a toll. And I'm thinking of that movie, The Green Mile, where the guy that was a healer, that how much it sucked out of him to heal others. And I know that's true for you, that as a healer, a wounded healer, it's very draining. The long hours you spend training women leaders, doing personal coaching or personal encouraging people who are really not leaders, or just people who are disciples that are hurting. And I see the way you give. And so feeling that way is really understandable. But I appreciate the way you fight and go out and take your walks and look at nature and watch the herons and the birds, and you let God take you back to being a little girl again, take you back to green pastures where He restores your soul. And I see that you fight for your soul to be restored. And as you do that, I see God giving you that restoration and giving you the strength to go on. So thank you for letting yourself be used the way you are. I know it takes a big toll, but I can see God doing great things through you.
Thank you, Grayson. Wow, my gosh. Okay, that was good. This was unscripted. Let's see, Matt, can you talk about how to get through psychological trauma in a pandemic when you are left with thoughts that replay through your mind constantly? Well, do you want to take that one?
No, I'll let that one be yours.
Thank you for your openness, and I relate. You know, I'm an epic overthinker. I think sometimes the thoughts cycle over and over and over again because they're trying to get our attention, and maybe those thoughts generate shame for us or whatever, so we don't want them. And I've heard it said, the harder you try to repress, the more something snags you, you know. And I think it's that way with thoughts. When we try to repress thoughts, that then they just want to take over, you know. They can become obsessive, and so I've learned to talk to my thoughts. And Dr. Daniel Amen talks about, automatic negative thoughts. And he says, talk back to your thoughts, because otherwise the brain will just accept the obsessive thought as being true. And so we need to counter the brain and say, okay, brain, like I used to have this obsessive thought, and I'd go stupid, 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 you know, and then one day I'm like, okay, why do you show up? What do you have to say? Why stupid, stupid, stupid? And I remembered something my dad said to me in Alcoholic Rage. And so the next time that came up, I'm like, oh, hello, obsessive thought. I hope you guys don't think I'm crazy. I'm like, hello, obsessive thought. I have you because of some things that happened in my childhood. And I just want you to know that I'm not stupid, and we aren't stupid. You know, that actually I'm really bright, like really, really bright. And I've inherited some of my dad's genius even. And so thanks for stopping by, but I'm working on that. I'm healing that. And there's something powerful about doing that, because you're teaching your brain, because the brain is neutral. The brain just isn't automatically spiritual. Our brains need if there's negative self-talk, then we need to replace that with emotionally intelligent words to our brain, so our brain then can shift. Then our brain learns, and our brain is like, oh, I didn't realize that was an automatic negative thought, or I didn't realize that was an obsessive thought, or I didn't realize that came from that abuse. And then we're able, each time it comes, not to freak out, just to say, there you are then. Do you have anything new to say to me? And if there's nothing new, then I can move on. So that's my answer. Avoid ants. Where's the spray?
And I just know that in the addictive point of view, that learning to listen to your self-talk, and then push back, because as an addict, there is like an addict self, a whole other person in there that's trying. His job is to survive. He's trying to survive at all costs, and he's there to lie. And there's a book called Breaking the Cycle that talks about how important it is to identify these voices, or who it is that's speaking, and to push back against them. And so I think even if you push back with the scripture, it's even better. But obviously, this is also why we need the voice of grace. We need people around us who can tell us the truth. And it says, encourage one another, lest you be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. There's lies being told to us nonstop, and we need the voice of grace. And we define grace as God's affirming presence. We need the voice of God's affirming presence. It can come through the scripture, but it also comes through people and people around us, that we can push back against those thoughts from that other person inside of us, or the traumatic thoughts as well.
Yeah, I know someone just put let's see if I can get back up to it up here. Sorry, guys. How do you stop from isolating when you are required to quarantine? I have PTSD, and when it gets really bad, I want to, let's see if I can get the rest of this. Well, guys, this is me and technology. I think she's saying I want to isolate.
She's required to isolate.
Yeah, required to isolate, but also we want to even isolate from the videos, or from, the opportunities that we do have. And I think we were talking about today, for those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about Pure and Pandemic, if you didn't get to be with us. And I think a lot of the questions that are coming up are really about trauma and about obsessive thoughts. And we just did a model of the Voice of Grace. I'll post this afterwards so you can go back and re-listen to it. But we're talking about these issues about pandemic and how it's impacting us in healing trauma, in the way we see ourselves, in lies Satan's trying to push at us. So I think one thing that really struck out to me is that we talked about in the actual seminar is this idea that our nervous system needs other people to help us regulate it. And so I think I am tempted to isolate, and there are times where, and I mean in an unhealthy way, or in a way, isolate even from my people in this little circle that I'm isolated with. I want to go to another level of isolation and isolate from the isolation. So there are times I have to ask myself, healthy or unhealthy, is this a time where I really just need? I think yesterday I needed that, I needed to isolate. But then I needed to talk about it as well, because if I just isolate and then I don't process it with somebody, then shame can get kind of left in my soul over it.
Right.
And so that's what we did the Voice of Grace over a few minutes earlier, was just this idea that I was kind of stuck in this isolation to the point where I told him I wanted to die kind of thing. Of course, I knew I didn't mean it. But anyway, so I think, afterwards asking yourself, how did that feel to me? Did that feel healthy, or did it feel like shame was really attacking me? And if it felt healthy, then be at peace with it, you know what I mean? And say, okay, that was a healthy one. If it feels like it hurts you or that Satan's in your head, then reach out to another person and explain to them what was in your body yesterday. Find a safe person. And you might even need to explain to them what you need from them, so they'll know what you need, that you just need them to listen, or you just need them to tell you it's going to be okay.
Don't know the situation, but for me it was great in my recovery to have my dog Mojo. Mojo. He was my recovery dog, and even though he didn't speak, he was present. He was very present and very comforting to me. And so if you're capable, or if it's possible to have a recovery animal, that is another, God gives us these animals to really be special. And we even talked to the little animals. We had a squirrel one time at our house that was, it seemed like he's really always chirping at us, and we gave him a name and used our imagination a little bit, I guess. But I think God gives us animals. He gives us beauty to connect with, and I think he is there in the midst of beauty. And so sometimes when you, in the absence of people, a pet, an animal, or even just God's beauty, His nature, draws me into His heart and helps me feel His presence.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll go and get a book that really impacted me, and even if I'm not up to reading it and I'm in a real funk, I'll just lay my hand on it and let it be there as a presence. Like, okay, this is the healing book, I read. Like, I've slept with Grace Calls or Secure in Heart and those. And I've done a bunch of healing art, and I don't know if any of it's even around here, but I've done a bunch of healing art, and I'll walk by and touch a painting that I've done and let it speak to me. So sometimes there are things we can have that, oh, there Dave goes, he's going to get a piece of artwork. I mean, this is really, if you think about it, it's kind of about co-regulation. Because here's a hand that's grasped tight, and there's a memory there that's afraid to come out. But this other person on the other side, you see the open hand, has released a butterfly that's flown over and landed on the knuckle. And this is kind of the sympathetic and parasympathetic, the body. In other words, both sides are needed, and they're passing back and forth help. But it's really about, I think it's about the nervous system, believe it or not. And so I can take a painting like this that I've done and kind of touch it, or I go into my Bible journaling and see something I've done, or I might have a blanket that's kind of my blankie, or music that comforts me, or so I've developed a whole list of ways to help myself when I hit that spot where I feel the world kind of closing in around me and I'm going into sensory overload, since I'm a highly sensitive introvert. So yeah, so let's see, let's see if there's another question here. I thought I saw another one. I pray I would see myself the way that God sees me. Oh yeah, that's something we all need to work on. If you have any other questions, send them along. But I think I just started, doing some trauma work for the Mutual Aid Society here in town, and that's going to be interesting because people don't want to talk about trauma on a level. I mean, it's scary to talk about trauma, and we have this fear in us that we think other people will think we're crazy. They'll think we're weird. They'll think we're unspiritual if we're talking about this kind of stuff. But there's power in talking about it, and that's how you heal trauma, is you find safety. You understand the body's working exactly the way it's supposed to. It just needs a little re-education, and it needs a new narrative for the trauma. So anyways, let's see. If you're not in touch with your emotions, where do you start? I think that is a Dave question.
There's a word for that. It's called alexithymia. It's a very common condition. Actually, it can be pathological. It can be actually a diagnosable mental disorder in the extreme cases. But it basically means the inability to put your feelings into words. And this is a common, especially with guys, but not only guys. But that is, oftentimes in recovery groups, we even had a book, a list of feelings, because we'd ask guys to share a feeling, and that good is not a feeling. We had to have something deeper. And guys would struggle with coming up with, well, what else is there other than good and bad and angry and hungry? That's about the only ones that they know. And so it's a learning process, but I think certainly getting a list and starting to learn what these things are, and then ask ourselves, have I ever felt that way before? Have I ever felt that, what it means to be melancholy? Have I ever felt anxiety? Have I ever tried to identify some time in our life when we felt these things, and just explore and ask God to guide us and reveal to us, because most likely we have. Most likely those are feelings we felt. We've either ignored them, suppressed them, just gotten busy with something else to cover them up. But sitting still and meditating is probably a really good thing to do. But then asking God to help you explore, but then learning the language, because if you don't know what these words even mean or what they even are, it's hard to hard to identify something you don't have a name for. You don't have any idea what it even is. And then, so get educated, get quiet, and then ask God. And even the Psalms can be a great educational tool, because David expressed so many different feelings in the Psalms. And you could read a Psalm and say, when did I feel that way? Have I ever felt just full of joy going to the house of God? Have I ever felt that way? Interesting. I think I did feel that way a few times. And what was going on? And try to relive it, and even try to anchor to it in some way.
Yeah. I think as a wife, if we have any wives listening, I used to get very impatient with Dave about feelings, right? I'd be like, I wanted to know right now what the feeling is. I'm like, what are you feeling? And I'm ready to receive the feeling. And he would say, can you give me some time? Because feelings, he couldn't just produce them on the spot. And if I pushed him for them, I might get defensive,ness or sarcasm, which then would hurt me. And then I'd have a lot of feelings, and we get trapped in this trap. And then I learned, it's that if I showed a lot more patience towards Dave and let him do the work on his feelings, that's his garden to work on, to grow, to plant, right? That he would find his feelings. And to be honest, when Dave's feelings all started cutting back on, it was very difficult for me because all of a sudden he felt something about everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost like you want that back. You want
be careful what you ask for.
Be careful what you ask for. Yeah, because I kind of wanted that back. Amber Khan, how can you tell the difference between trauma and bad past experiences? I also don't let myself feel my emotions. I usually just push it down and not allow myself to experience it. Well, I think, it's considered trauma when it still has an adverse effect on you. So, we're all suffering trauma through coronavirus, but it becomes acute trauma when it's hanging around for a month or so and still causing anxiety, fear, and panic, or sending us into fight or flight or nightmares. And so I think trauma still, either we have the tendency to run from it, or I think for me, I just knew there was something in me, like I had a flash of a memory. It took me a really long time to remember my sexual abuse. And I started praying that if it was important, and if it was an important trauma for me to remember, whatever it was that was connected with it, I prayed that God would bring it to me at the right time. And sure enough, he did. I mean, in a really big way. And it was then that I started to realize what a big tear it was in my soul. It was a major tear. And so it takes time and patience, I think, to root out maybe what's just a bad experience and what's a trauma. But yeah, that'd be something, you can do research on that online, or get in touch with me, write me an email and we could talk more about it, about things to look for. But definitely if you're having some kind of nightmares that could be related, or you get feelings of a trigger, like you're having reactions that are out of proportion to the things that happen, or you have deep relational sensitivities, or you struggle with purity issues, there's probably trauma there underneath it that could be released, even in a deeper level if you've already released some of it. At least that's my take.
Right, I think part of it is how long it persists as well.
Yeah.
And if it just refuses to go away, then obviously it's telling you something, it's speaking to you and asking for help and asking for healing. Yeah,
Peter says, as children, feelings and learned behavior, since we're so young, it's to resurface these is a very tough thing to do because they're hidden in the subconscious. Jesus needs to bring these up, but yeah, frightening because we don't know where these thoughts or feelings even came from. So I think, thanks so much, Peter. I think for me, yeah, that's how it was, exactly. And I think you nailed it. But the thing that made me believe I could start facing them was just this belief that Jesus would be with me to face them. And they've even found that. Studies have found that people can face things that otherwise they would not be able to face or drain if they know that Jesus is there. So spending a lot of time working on how do I practice the presence of Jesus? How do I bring him into my pain? And as I did that, the memory started to, there's something in us that wants to release those, I think. We just need to know it's safe to do it. And Jesus is really the safety that really helped me to be able to let go of the sticky fingers and let some of that trauma come up.
And there's a point where there are trained trauma professionals that could help as well.
Yeah. What's the best way to share a trauma with a parent so they are aware? You want to try that?
It's interesting because I think in my situation, there were some unhealed pain wounds with my parents that we put into Grace Calls that before the book came out, I had to talk to them. And even they were in their 80s. I guess the main thing that helped me was I had no expectation. I went in there not knowing whether they would be open to talk about them or whether they wouldn't, and be willing to be okay with them not. If they said, no, I can't go there, or, I would definitely still love them, accept them, not be angry or to go in there with zero expectations, and then prayerfully and humbly just start talking about some things. And thankfully, in my situation, my parents are followers of Jesus, and they responded in great humility, even in their 80s. And so what a discussion I thought I may never have with them actually happened. And I'm thankful because my dad passed last year, and it was great that we had those discussions. So I guess I just say, temper your expectations. We don't really know how they're going to respond, and definitely go in humbly but have the courage to go there, but also understand that it may or may not go the way you hope it will.
Yeah. I think, David, I hear you that our family members, it's hard on them when we start bringing up trauma, especially if it's your parents and they feel a lot of guilt and shame, and they may have big old fight or flight reactions themselves. So I don't know, a lot of prayer, asking the Holy Spirit to let you know when it's a good time to talk and what to talk about. And I love Larry Crabb's book, The Pressure's Off. If you listen for the Spirit on when to have those conversations, and the pressure isn't all on you to navigate these very, very, very tricky conversations with parents who or other people who have their own feelings about it because somehow they were involved and they feel a lot of guilt and shame. You could always email us more.
Yeah, I like the comment that says, forgiveness is for you,
not for the other person.
Or more for you than the other person. And so
yeah.
I think if you go in there knowing you've done the best you can, then that maybe will help you release it, and you may be surprised at what happens.
Yeah, Amy says creating boundaries with parents is crucial. Going into the conversation without expectations that your parents will listen or change. It's more for your therapy to communicate with your parents. Yes, excellent, Amy. Yeah, it's for our, we have to ask ourselves, what will help me heal? And is it the right timing to bring it to parents? And then setting boundaries if they want to get all in the middle of it and try to fix it, setting boundaries of like, okay, I'm an adult, I need to make these decisions for myself, but I so appreciate that you love me. I so appreciate that you care. I hear your hurt, I hear your guilt. I hear that, and I think it's because you love me, but know that I'm an adult and that I'm finding my way through this with God, and I'm going to be okay. Maybe they just need reassurance that, and I don't hold you responsible, they just need to hear sometimes parents need reassurance from us
Sure.
On these kind of things. Wow, we've been on for what time did we come on? 2:40.
Yeah.
So we've been on about 40 minutes. I thought we'd come on for 20 minutes.
That's probably good enough.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be about it for today, because we've been working on this Puritan pandemic all day long, and we probably need a break. David, I have learned to forgive. How do I let them understand that? David, why don't you email us the whole story, and maybe we can think about it, pray about it, and weigh in on that. But guys, what we're trying to do is I'm trying to come online on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. And now that Dave's been here, I think it'd be grand for him to join me.
Yeah.
I think you guys would say it's very valuable to have Dave here, right? To have kind of the dual perspective. And so...
and I'm going to say one thing to David as well. Parental shame is one of the toughest things to deal with.
Yes.
When you feel like you've harmed your child and you haven't protected your child, and something you did something that you hurt your child with, that's got to be one of the hardest ones to let go. So be very patient and pray, but that's a tough one. It's a very tough one. If they feel like some way they let you down or damaged you, that can be a tough one to let go of. So
I've had family members that the one thing I can do that can help them let go of something is just pray with them. You could even ask your parents, could I pray with you over this? And just to hear you praying over it might give them a little bit of release if they're willing, just to say, could I pray? Because they're battling their own obsessive thoughts and their own stuff. So let it be theirs. you know, but also that's been helpful. That prayer will calm souls, right? Prayer is very helpful. Well, are we done?
Yes, we're done. Thank you so much for everything. We love you and look forward to continuing conversations days to come.
If you did not listen to Pure in Pandemic, you still can. You can go on and still register, right?
Oh, yeah, just register.
You can still register. They'll send you the full video. We had some technical problems today, so we're hoping the video's even better than the in-person was. So, or pass it on if you know other people who could use to listen. Pass on the video, pass on this. I'll post this on Facebook so it's available to other people. And let us know what kind of things you would like us to talk about as we continue these conversations. And thank you for your comments. Wow, all these beautiful comments. We love you too, and it's been good to spend our day with you guys today. Okay, bye-bye. We're still on.